Hi guys, it's so nice to be back. So welcome to the video. Oh, it seems like this year the garden party has been fraught with obstacles, but I am determined, so we shall paint flowers. This video is part of a garden party series that we've been doing this year of kind of looking at flowers. We grew some flowers, some that were already in the garden. And so for this video, we're going to really delve heavily into tulips. This is definitely more of a tutorial based video and walking through everything step by step. You can see in here this little baby cardinal that we found actually just a couple of days ago. This little garden bed has been filled with life, but today here we're going to look at these three tulips. So we're going to start with the closed tulip, the one that you might more recognize as a tulip, and then we have these varieties. They're the Parrot Tulips. And so this one here is kind of starting to open, and you can see it kind of has the frilly petals, and then we'll go to a very open Parrot Tulip after it's kind of been opening for about a week or so. In this video we won't do the one on the right, but I wanted to show you as well, you can play around with the colors that you want to create. This is actually from a sketch I did when the tulip was in front of me on my desk, but the colors are just made up, and I really wanted to kind of just see what it would look like, different varieties. They're always coming up with different varieties. They're so beautiful. So I thought I'm just going to color one with this kind of neon pink, and I have like sparkly yellow stamen in the center there. So yeah. I also created another page. You can see there the Cabana Parrot Tulip. So another page that I was working through when the flowers would bloom, I started trying to paint them. So I did a couple of daffodils, but then I couldn't finish that off. So I finished a few things and finished painting them. And so I'll show you a little bit more of that process at the end as well. So it was quite nice. These were all painted or sketched at least, from the actual flower, and then I kind of painted them as I had time. But you can see here, just before we get into the tutorial, I wanted to kind of show you this video has taken probably a year and a half to organize. So we started buying some of these bulbs last spring, so 2024, and they don't actually arrive until I think sometime in autumn, and then you plant them just before winter. So all these beautiful healthy looking bulbs arrive, and then you kind of put them in the ground, and then they're covered in snow in not very much time. So it was really nice to kind of see them actually come to fruition. We planted also some irises, which also come quite dried out, and so we weren't even sure if they would grow, but they're also thriving. So showing you the hydrangeas there, so you can see like we tried the seeds in several different ways. We stratified them, we put them in the little pots. We just tried, I think that the birds may have eaten a lot of the seeds, the poppy seeds. So the seeds didn't really work, but the tulips and the daffodils and the irises were a real success. And the reason we knew they would work here is because the hydrangea bushes were flourishing here, and they have the same soil. So when we saw that the bulbs needed draining soil, good draining soil. We also then looked up what else was growing there, which were the hydrangeas, and they also need the good draining soil, the well draining soil. So we were able to kind of figure out that they would work there. What we didn't anticipate is the high winds, and yeah, it was really lucky to be able to kind of see that. Unfold, because we just weren't sure there for a while if we'd get anything actually growing, because yeah, the winds were so strong at some points. But you can see how beautiful they came out. They were just like, it was like a little garden party. It was very like a really happy moment in spring. You know, winter is quite long, so these would be something lovely also to even plant in like a little planter box, like a window box, or yeah, something like that. It was just a real treat after so much work and you know, kind of uncertainty. It was just so lovely to see that everything bloomed, and it was just, yeah, really nice. So the video that we're doing today is courtesy of all of this backstory, basically. These aren't really varieties you can get at the store, so kind of we had to grow them in order to be able to yeah, paint them and have this. So you can see here two of the ones we're going to paint. We will start with the one on the left, and yeah, we'll work our way through them. So this is kind of the more regular tulip shape that you see, but see on the bottom they're a little bit flatter in some angles. So in some angles it might be more rounder, but in some angles you're gonna kind of get this flatness on the bottom, and that can help shape the tulip. Whatever flower you're painting or whatever your subject is, you kind of want to look for small things like that can kind of help to determine like what you know, the overall shape. Yeah, it just little tiny details like that, an attention to a curve, an attention to kind of a flat plane or something, that can all really help. So you can see here that it's kind of like a triangle with sort of a flatter bottom and then a rounded top, and then I'm putting two little extra ones at the side, like more petals, and then I always put the two kind of petal veins in there. That I think they're an important part as well of kind of showing that tulip. Every time I looked at them, I would see those two kind of very prominent veins. And then again, just loosely looking at sort of the width of the stem and the shape of the leaves, which are quite tall and pointy. And then I'm kind of doing this other, you know, just another one. You can do it like to the opposite side. You can do these very rough sketches to kind of get you thinking about the shapes. You can see again like the little veins. I'm doing a different color green, so try different colors. These are just very quick sketches to kind of get you understanding what the shape is like without very much pressure, or just being able to kind of quickly think about and understand yeah, what you're looking at. Normally this is something we might do like with charcoal or in pencil, but I wanted to do it with yeah, some colours. So here we have this parrot tulip, and you can see like the beautiful kind of frills and kind of ruffles along the edges. But what I'm just looking at kind of to start with is the petal closest to me. What does that look like in terms of the shape? And then I'm also thinking about these kind of ruffle edges. So here I kind of sort of gently put that in, and I'm sort of giving again a few of the ruffles, but then you can see because I'm working in pastel as well, it's quite nice to be able to build that up to go over the lines. I'll show you in a minute. If you don't have pastels, you can use oil pastels, Neocolor too, just something quite fun and experimental. We'll also use some pastel pencils in a minute that work really well. So you can see I started with kind of the petal closest to me. I put in the petal on the right, and then I put in all the back kind of petals. Again, I'm going in with the those kind of veins just to show where those petals, kind of the center of the petals are. And then I start going around the frills or the kind of ruffles, and I'm adding in some color there to kind of start to shape and really showcase the beauty of that kind of moment in the flowers. The structure and kind of the engineering of all these different varieties of flowers is really interesting. So then I kind of go back in with a different color, and so now I'm using like a pastel pencil. This is a Caran d'Ache one. Stabilo has some. I think there's Pitt pencils. Is that right? So yeah, there's quite a few varieties of like a pastel pencil, which also work really nicely. And again, you don't need very many colors, just a couple to do something like this to kind of get you started with some sketches. What you will see when I'm doing this is I'm doing it in the same value system as we use in watercolor. So I go from the lightest pastel, and then I start building up to a darker and darker pastel. So I started with a more pink tone, I went to like a lilac tone, and now I've got like a darker violet earth kind of tone. And you can see that I'm not being overly careful, but I'm just kind of trying to kind of map out in my mind where kind of how the frills come together, what that looks like, where the darkest kind of areas of the frill might be. I will have my reference image kind of on the iPad or something next to me, so you can always go back and pause the video where the reference is, and you can kind of go from there. But you can see again I've kind of changed the colors from on there as well. I've kind of softened them a little bit. I'm also going in with the stem, and one of the things that amazes me about the tulip stems, they're quite thick and they're very, very straight, so, or I guess linear, not necessarily up and down, but there's no bumps, there's no little notches or anything like that. They're smooth, and it's just a very nice line. So the last one we're going to look at is this large open one. So you can see kind of there's the two side petals, and then you can see they're kind of unusual shapes, but we're just kind of going petal by petal. We look at kind of the overall shape, even like the little curl there, the back one there, the little bits at the side here that we can see. So whenever you have a complex thing, kind of break it down, and you can see like it sort of all works into an oval as well. So you can think about that, how the shape kind of comes together, and we'll look at that a little bit more in a minute as well. Thinking about that overall shape can kind of help you get things in place a little bit more. But so I've just pulled out a selection of some oil pastels, and again we will kind of use these. The one thing I love about oil pastels is how you can kind of put them down and then smudge them, and they just create these really, really beautiful kind of fairy-like wisps on the page. I really enjoy that. So being able to blend them is, I think, a really lovely aspect. So right here, just to get my bearings, I'm kind of putting in this smaller tulip on the left here, and that's just going to help me to figure out kind of the position of the larger one that we're working on. You can see here, like, I'm thinking of putting in a little bit of gold and kind of some of that different colouring that was on the edges. So again, even though these are just small sketches, I am thinking through kind of what the overall aesthetic of the tulip is. I'm picking some of the main key features, which I think is always really helpful. And again, so you can see here I'm putting the stem of the one now we're working with behind the other one, And I start with this, again, the large petal that's closest to me in the middle. That's going to help me really get my bearings. You can see that I am kind of making the lines a bit squiggly. If it helps you, you can just do smooth lines to start with, and then put the kind of the frills in. And again, I'm looking at this one here off to the side and looking where it goes thinner, where it goes thicker, and where there might be like a little piece overlapping as well. So you can see here, like on this one on the side, I can see kind of that front bit, and then kind of the back curve is just a little bit peeking out. So, and these sketches aren't supposed to take very long. You're just kind of starting to warm up, to kind of try and understand the actual shape, how it's working together, what are the key elements you're looking for, where do the shadows fall, where's the light coming from, what colours do you want to use and if they'll work, and things like that. So again, I'm using a darker colour now. You can see I'm just blending that out with my finger, and starting to again just very quickly kind of form these shapes, and looking at the petal on the side here, thinking about where those frills curve in, where they might curve out or curve, you know, over each other. And yeah, it's really nice. I think these flowers have quite a nice sense of ease, and like even though they're very sort of large and voluminous, there's this sort of relaxed feeling when you start putting in the frills. They can kind of, they're very forgiving is what I'm trying to say. Like it can sort of go here or there, and the flower just comes together really beautifully. Okay, so we're going to go backwards for a minute and just talk about what we were looking at as far as the shape of the flower sort of fitting into a square or a circle, or this is just a nice way to kind of map out for yourself, like if you're in the right direction, if you're getting the proportions right. I will often think about this. I won't necessarily sketch it out, but I am thinking like, is this the right kind of shape that I'm getting? So you could see for that one it was more of a rectangle. This is sort of more of a square, but it's also on an angle. So this is also a good way to kind of figure out where you want to put things in a composition as well. And you can see it's a bit larger. So again, I'm taking kind of a few things into consideration, even though we're just kind of making, you know, squares or ovals or rectangles. I'm kind of looking at a whole variety of things in doing that, and then again just looking at the way that these petals go. And you can see again the bottom of this tulip has kind of this flatness to it, and then even the sides, they curve a little bit here and there, but there's still quite a linear element before the frills come in. And what's interesting is how large these stems are versus the anemones had these tiny little stems that were holding up this pretty large flower. So it's quite remarkable. So then you can see here, I'm looking at this one and I'm feeling like this has more of an overall shape of an oval. So I kind of put that in, or an ellipse. I kind of put that in, and then I start working out where the petals would be kind of falling from there. And this is a really good way to kind of break down, again, something complex. Sometimes kind of you look at something, and I remember reading a post actually from one of my favorite artists once, and she'd done this really complex sketch before painting it, and then she's like, I don't even know what's going on here. And I was like, oh, that's good, because it looks really complex. But yeah, so this is just a nice way to kind of give yourself that map. And so the other thing to remember is you don't have to kind of do the frills. If you're finding that quite hard, just do straight lines and then go back and kind of put the frills in. Yeah, always simplify things and then begin to kind of add in the embellishments and those little beautiful kind of adornments and decorative details. Okay, so all that is just our preliminary work to kind of start to figure things out. And you can see how art can take a long time. I feel like sometimes we feel like it should be rushed, or what if we're not sort of further ahead. This whole project has taken like a year and a half, this video, you know, so don't worry if it's taking a while to kind of figure things out. So you can see here that now that we've kind of sketched things, I'm on my watercolor paper, and I kind of have a pretty good idea here of, you know, how I want to create this sketch now and the shape of everything. So it's simplified, and there's a lot less stress when I kind of go to do that shape. Like you could see, it was pretty quick to put that down. Often I get comments that, you know, sketching is the hardest part, so that's why I kind of did the pastels. Just make it fun, kind of really, you know, make it enjoyable with colors that you like. Okay, so I'm putting down my first wash in the initial petal here. You can see I might leave a few little gaps of white. I'm mixing it a little bit with some other things that I have just on the palette, some darker pinks, other things that I think might give it a little bit of shading. I also really enjoy the pencil. This is the Caran d'Ache Technalo, because already you're getting some of that shading in the painting there. It's a watercolor graphite pencil, so you can see we didn't do too much, and then I'm going in with a stronger color into the stem. So I am already using that to sort of differentiate the values a little bit, to show how pale the tulip might be, as you know, kind of what's the word, like compared to the stem there. You can see here I just pulled out a couple of highlights right where those kind of veins are up the center of the petal. So at that stage, when I put in the first kind of wash, I always like to think about if I want to pull out any highlights, and we'll talk about that more as well. So I'm going, once this is dry, I'm going in. My brush is very dry. I've wiped it off on paper towel, and I'm getting some sort of a pink color. You can see I'm not really going with the yellows on the reference for this one, and you know, I keep wiping my brush off if I want to, or getting more water and then damping it, to sort of get like a dry brush effect. Now this is where you kind of, your practice will vary, your subject will vary. You might have to do another wash before you get to this kind of wet on dry or dry brushing stage. You might have to, you know, so before we did this, if you wanted to deepen up the color underneath, you could do that again. But you can see that I'm just sort of leaving that quite pale, and I'm going in to the areas where they're kind of pretty color around the edges, and I'm creating that, and then I'm also adding in again those double veins in the center. So then I want to kind of put in a little bit of shading. So again, my brush is pretty dry, and I'm just getting some deeper parts of the colors there and just kind of adding those in around the curves of the petals. So this is not botanical painting in the way that I'm not taking it, you know, if you were doing a botanical sketch, this would take a lot longer, and you'd be looking at all the ways the tiny little parts of the petal fall. So I'm just kind of more going for an overall feeling of the flower. So then I just continue to kind of work the petal, and one of the things you can see, like, I'm kind of softening out some of those edges. So I just have water on my brush, I damp the paper towel, and I just kind of blending the watercolor so it doesn't sort of have hard edges there on the side. So this is looking pretty good, and then the kind of last thing I like to do is take an even tinier detail brush. This would be like a 0 or a 2-0, and I'm getting a darker color, so this is more like a potter's pink, and I am just kind of again dry brushing in some of this kind of detailing that really, when you look up close on the tulips, this is the type of detail. It may not be the colors, but this is the type of detail that I'm seeing. So yeah, and again you can see that we've gone from our lightest color to our darkest color. And I've really been enjoying this kind of mix of the Incarnate one, so it's kind of this peach color with the cobalt blue pale. So a blue and kind of an apricot just works really well. Also, this is a Da Vinci #1, which also has a really nice point, or the Winsor & Newton Series 7 #1. Will also give you a really nice, like, fine detail if you don't want to go that tiny. These are the kind of parts where you can build it up more or less depending on your style, how loose you want to be. Yeah, so I pretty much leave it here. Again, you can let this all dry and then you could go over it again with some more detail. But yeah, I think for now that's quite good. And you can see, like, just from our initial sketch to the actual finished painting is quite, it's quite a nice achievement. Okay, so we are actually going to work on this one that was next to the, so we're going to work on the larger one first, and then we'll come back to the middle-sized one. Yeah, just because it was a kind of a nice flow on this page. So again, we're starting with this light kind of peach color, and I will link or list the colors below if you like, but I kind of talk about these colors quite a lot. So and really it can be any colors that you like. So I'm mixing in a little bit of these pinks to sort of give this edge color. So you can see when I put the peach color down, I put it more towards the base of the petal, and then I'm putting this coloring around the edges where the kind of frills happen. So you can see here I'm just letting that blend together, and some parts I might put in a little bit more blending, some parts I might put in a little bit less. There was funny little kind of frills at the back of the petal here as well. So I just kind of take that approach and just keep going around all the petals. So then I've got these other pinks. You can see I put a little sparkle in there, and I just start kind of putting in where these frills might happen. At this stage, because I kind of know what I'm doing, I'm not even really looking at the reference. I've kind of already looked at it, and I feel like it would take quite a long time if I tried to replicate it exactly. So I'm just kind of going for where approximately these things fall. I'm mixing in a little bit more of an orange color here to put at the base of this petal here, just to deepen up the, it's very subtle, but it really does help. Those kind of subtle changes really help to shape the painting. So yep, then I start the whole process again. You can see that I'm doing every petal separately, so I don't try and put like all the peach color on and then get to every petal. Just take your time, and yeah. So again, you can see I'm always working from lighter colours and less details to the darker values and adding more details. So it's always better to start lighter and then build up the colours rather than take things away in watercolour. You can lift and you can sort of change things and fix things, but it's just a nice way to work to build that up slowly. I find that every time I do that, I get sort of a better result. Yeah, and then so I'm going back in kind of to these side petals here as well. So I'm putting in more of the peach here because this is the kind of curve of the petal, the sort of underside. So it's a bit of a lighter colour under there. And yeah, what was I going to say? If you're having trouble with the colours, even maybe drying too light or lighter than you'd like, at this stage when you're putting in your initial wash, start lightly, but you can keep adding colour. So yeah, it's one of the things I always found really difficult in doing the flower paintings was kind of what shadow colours that I wanted. So rather than, like, I could do sort of a red, you know, we've got the sort of red there, you could do a green to make a neutral, but I really like kind of using split complementaries. I feel like it gives sometimes a bit more of a realistic or just a subtlety to it. So I'll show you the mix that I've been really enjoying in a minute. Yeah, I find that, like, with shadow colours, you want to kind of really spend a little bit of time mixing different things to see what will work. Like, don't just kind of assume that the one shadow colour that you're used to or maybe a neutral tint will work. Really try and kind of look at what works well with the flower that you're creating. You can see here kind of a bit of this shadow colour. So it's this Incarnate one. This is from Creamer. It's just quite a nice sort of soft peachy colour, and I think this is one of my favourite all-time colours. I used to use the Wallace & Seymour Chinabrese, but they sort of discontinued, or they kind of changed it. So, and then you can see this colour with this beautiful cobalt blue pale, and just the colours together are very harmonious. They're really pretty. The cobalt blue pale is one of my newest favourite finds. It's from KW Arts, or she's now called The Colours of Jupiter, but you might know her as Katie. Yeah, and so then I mix a little bit of more of the blue into I mix a little bit more of the peach, and then I kind of do one that's just really kind of in the middle, and you can kind of see how you can get these really nice soft shadow shades. Again, when I'm creating these colours, I'm not necessarily looking for glaring contrast, so you might want to amp up some of these colours. You can change things however that kind of fits your style best. I can also see some sort of greens in the petals kind of peeking through. There's little bits of this kind of beautiful green light that will come through, or yellow light, so I also put a little bit of that in as well. And yeah, continue on some of the petals you can see. So I will refer to the photo as far as like what kind of colouring is in that area. I just don't go kind of too far on every minute detail, because I feel like it would just be quite time consuming and difficult. But if for botanical art, for example, you would need to look at that more closely. So you can see I put sort of some minty greens in, and now I'm putting some green gold in there to get that kind of luminous quality happening. Let's see, as I move around as well, I'm not wetting. You can see this is kind of wet on dry. I'm not wetting the petal as I'm painting this. Like I could actually wet the petal and then work wet into wet to get sort of a softer gradation, but I'm pretty happy with painting it this way. So there's different ways again that you can work through these paintings. For example, I just don't want you to think if you're doing it one way that would be wrong. That might be just a different way to do something, which is completely fine. So yeah. Okay, so that is our second flower finish. You can see that I put some of the darkest kind of edges on at the end there. And yeah, one of the things that does take help kind of these larger flowers to take shape is just taking a little bit of attention to the sort of the width of those petals, where they go in thin and where they come out thick. So I am, let's see, for some reason, why is that here? So this is a little bit out of order, but there's the middle shadow color. This video has actually taken so long to put together and to find all the little clips, and yeah, so anyway, so this is our last flower, and you can see here that I'm just going to sketch it in. Again, I've thought about what we're kind of doing. And then you can see I put in some little kind of just dots for myself to kind of mark where I think the petal will go, and then I'm sort of putting the frills around that, so going in a little bit, out a little bit, then putting in those kind of center lines there, and then just kind of filling in the rest of the flower. But what I found when I sketched it, which you can't really see on camera, but it looked too wide, so I just erased the one kind of left hand side and then just kind of redrew that in a little bit. And sometimes all it will take is a small change like that. You might think that kind of you've ruined the whole sketch, but it could just be one part of it that needs to kind of be finessed. So okay, so we're going to go through the same process. So I'm not going to talk through all the sort of colours and the process. We kind of did that before, but we're going to work a little bit more on the steps of the process in this one. So we're going to look at lifting out as well and kind of add that in to create even more kind of this subtle depth. So first of all, we put the kind of peach colour in, and then we're putting these kind of more pink colours around the side here. And again, often when I'm doing these videos, I have to kind of limit the time, you know, or to be here all day. But when I'm painting, I will be mixing sort of little variations of this as well. So I wouldn't just be putting the one flat color on as well. But so yeah, you can see like I kind of deepened up some of that there on the right. And now I'm going through and I'm going to lift out or pull out some of the highlights here. So I'm starting with kind of what I can see next to these kind of middle veins there. And we kind of did this on the first one. Then I'm also going in straight away here and putting in a little bit of shading on the bottom, a little bit of a shadow color. And then I'm coming back around and I'm going to lift out all of the kind of highlights from the frills here. So I'm again sort of really trying to increase the just these variations that you see around the petal. It you know, the flower or whatever your subject is, it will really help to sort of bring that three-dimensional quality. You can see already, like on the right and versus the left, how much of a difference that makes. You know, and we didn't do that on the last one and it still works fine, but this is just some kind of more advanced tips as well. So then I'm going back in and I'm going to do what we did before, which is just put some of the darker kind of frill areas around the edges, but you can see you'll just have this sort of greater tonal range, even though it's a very compressed tonal range. So because it is so compressed, every little bit that you can kind of give helps. What that kind of means is, because I don't want to go dark on these frills, I don't want to do the kind of darker red pink, so I have to put more white in there to still get that sort of contrast, just a little bit of contrast. Quite often in art we exaggerate the contrast, but quite often in real life it's quite soft and subtle. So yeah, I'm always kind of looking for that sort of the, you know, that nice kind of medium. And yeah, that's it. So I would love to hear if you follow along with this as well, and if you found it, you know, how you found it as well. So yeah, this is the large sketchbook. This is a beautiful Italian sketchbook. I got it in, I think, the last, or it's a haul that I did last year with pastels on the front. And yeah, you can see here that I really enjoyed kind of putting all the different flowers across this double page, because it is quite large. So I can actually fit the flowers as life size, you know, kind of pretty realistic, which was nice. This is a flower I want to do an actual painting of, so I just did sort of a quick painting to again get my bearings, how the leaves might kind of curl, and it was a really beautiful flower, so I just wanted to do that. But you can see here kind of as the page was progressing, and I had done a sketch up in the top kind of right, and I wasn't happy with it. I did it from life, but I wasn't happy with it, so I actually went back, I erased that, and I tried to redo it. And so I actually sort of took a ruler and tried to get, I enlarged it on my iPad till it was about the size that I remember it. And then I tried to kind of measure out parts of the flower to try and get it. And you can see here, like, it's still a wonky mess. So, yeah. This was a really beautiful flower, but a really difficult one to paint, and I would need like more time, which I just didn't have. So I just basically erased the right side and just left that, to be continued, or just to be left and maybe painted at a later date. But I do recommend trying to sketch flowers from life. It does take a while. It does take practice. So don't worry if your first attempts, you're struggling a little bit. Last year I really sort of practiced that, and it's difficult, especially when you've got like really sort of complex flowers sitting in front of you. So I want to sketch the bunny, paint the bunny as well. But so we did this video a couple of videos ago where we kind of are doing warm-ups and kind of just wet into wet florals. We're just kind of sort of learning about the watercolor and what it can do and all of that. So I've been doing some of these as a nice kind of end of day project, and I won't always start a new one. Sometimes I just get one that I've already done and kind of do something different to it. Like I had this one, actually took quite a few nights, and then I finished the kind of bottom colors of it. And I did this peony a few weeks ago, and then I liked this kind of bloom that was happening at the top here, but it didn't look right as far as the peony, so I thought I want to put just maybe something around the edge here to kind of give it a little bit of kind of delineation. So I've put in the interference blue from Daniel Smith. I think it's just interference blue. But it was, again, still too light. So, but I was carefully kind of edging towards it. I didn't want to make it too dark. So I've put in here a little bit of lapis lazuli. Again, this is the Daniel Smith one, just to kind of give a sort of a soft edge, but make, the edge noticeable. And that might be the only thing that I do, in a day painting. It might just be like a sketch of something. It might be a painting, just painting a little portion of something. So this is something you might like to know as a mix. This is lapis lazuli. You can see it's similar to the cobalt blue pale, but it's a bit more muted and more granulation. And then this is the Daniel Smith purpurite, which is kind of a muted granulating purple. It's quite beautiful. And then this is the interference blue. And this mix was really beautiful, like mixing kind of these in different varieties and the three of them together. This was reminding me of one of the circus ones that I just put out. So I thought you might like to know this mix. It kind of mutes when all three of them are together, but you get like this sparkle, and it's really quite lovely. Anyway, I have, and you can see I just did just those two there, and then I dipped the brush in water and kind of did a watered down version. But let's see. This has been a really difficult 3 weeks. I'm sorry I haven't been able to get the videos out. I ended up going into my mum's dentist. We could not find a dentist that would do extractions. So anyway, I will do another little video about that, so you can kind of see that trip. Yeah, but finally I had a few orders left, and these are all packaged up, so they will go out this week. So I'm really sorry about that, and I thank you for your patience. A few of you have been asking about future shop updates. I may have one at the end of August or September, somewhere there. I am just sort of laying low for a couple of weeks, and then I'll sort of start to work on the next batch of goodies. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with a little bunny, and this, I think it looks a little bit bigger. It's actually pretty small. Yeah, but it's been again in our bushes, and it was actually right underneath the nest that we found the other day. So yeah, this whole little garden bed gets a lot of foot traffic. Anyway, I will see you guys soon. Bye.